the state of these people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the next ayat is talking about the state of these people. How sad and how pathetic is the state of these people. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the example here. Okay? By saying wa mathalul lazina. Okay? So mim and tha and lam. Okay? This means to give example. Okay? And mathalun means example. That's a noun, example. Mathalun means example. And alladhina means those. Allazina is the plural. Alladhi means one person, he. Alladhina means those, plural. So one word is mathalun, the other word is allazina. If you combine these two, you can say the example of those. Okay? And these two will be combined and will sound, one dhamma will not be pronounced, so this will be mathalul lazina. Example of those. Va means and, so the meaning will be the and the example, and example of those, Now who are those people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the example is the next word. Kafaru. Okay. So kafaru is from these three letters, kaf, fa and ra. Kafara is to disbelieve. Okay. And again, going back, if we have fa'ala, to do, and if you put a vav at the end, fa'alu, by putting this, it's a plural, they did. Okay. Third person plural, past tense. Fa'ala, he did, fa'alu, they did. So, kafaru will be they disbelieved. Okay? That's the word in the Quran. So, mathalul lazina, and example of those, and we can translate who disbelieved. To make a proper English, instead of saying they disbelieved, those who disbelieved. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the example of those who are disbelievers. Those people who have disbelieved, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using an example of those people. That how are those people? What is the example of such people who disbelieved? If we have already disbelieved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they have rejected what Allah has sent down, ma anzalallahu, so they have disbelieved, they have rejected. One of the meaning of kafara is to reject. Okay? So they already rejected what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down. So you can also translate the example of those people who rejected, okay, or disbelieved. Kama tharil lazi. Look at these words. Okay. So the word is extra word is ka, and mathalun is the word we just saw, and allazi. These are three words together. Ka means as or like. Okay. And allazi means him or one person. Okay. So when you combine these two, mathalun and allazi will be pronounced as with one dhamma, mathalul lazi. Okay. And kaf with a fatha is a harf jar, so it will change this dhamma into a kasra. So the pronunciation will be kamathalil lazi. All three of these together will be recited as ka matha lil ladhi. You don't pronounce this alif in between, and you combine this lam with this lam. So that's the word here. Kamathalil ladhi means as the example of him. The example of those people who did kufr is as the example of him or such a person. And then who is this him? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is defining further. Okay? So he's saying that those who rejected or disbelieved, the example of those people is the example as of such a person who is being defined in the next few words. Okay? So this will be as example of him or as such a person. Okay? Then the next word is yan'iqu, and this starts with these root letters noon, ayn and qaf. This means to shout. Noon, ayn and qaf means to shout. Someone is shouting. Okay? And again, if we have this fa, ayn and lam to do, and we put a ya in the beginning and pronounce as yafu alu, it means he and present tense. He does. So ya in the beginning makes it a present tense, third person. So this will be yan'iqu, because middle letter changes kasra, because it keeps changing. So yan'iqu, which is the word in the Quran, means he shouts. Present tense, third person. Okay. So yan'iqu, he shouts, or kamathalil lazi, as example of him who shouts. Okay, so proper English will be he who shouts, or who screams, who shouts. Okay. What does he shout? Bima la yasma'u. Okay. So bima is made of two. Bima, and this means to that. He shouts to that. Okay. Okay. That person who shouts to something. Okay, and what is that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La yasma'u. So the word is seen, mim and ayn. It means to hear. Okay. And yasma'u, we just saw that in present tense, he hears. Yasma'u, he hears. does, yasma'u, he hears. Okay? La yasma'u, he does not hear. He does not hear. Okay? So what it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this person is standing in front of a flock of sheep or cows or goats, and then he starts shouting at them. Okay? He started calling them, or he started shouting towards them. Okay? So that is to that la yasma'u, to that which doesn't hear. Okay? So he's calling, he's standing in front of a group or a flock of sheep, and he is shouting, calling them. Okay? And Allah says, La yasma'u, he doesn't hear anything. These animals, they don't hear anything. Okay? La yasma'u, does not hear. So his example is that he doesn't hear. These animals don't hear anything. Illa, except what they hear. Illa means except. Then there are two words, du'a'un or nida'un. Okay? So dua and nida is call and cry. Okay? So they don't hear except that he is just shouting and crying, but they don't understand anything what he is trying to say to them. Okay? So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that these people who are worshipping the idols and the false gods, and they are standing and crying in front of them, making dua to them, they don't hear anything. They don't understand anything. So the example of these people who disbelieve in Allah and worship these false idols, their example is the example of a person who is standing in front of these sheep and animals and calling them, or asking them and making dua to them and doing all kinds of things, and they don't understand anything, what he's saying. Okay? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using the example of these people. That's what they are doing actually. So call, dua means call, and nida means cry. He's calling and crying, but those, they don't understand anything what he's saying to them. Okay? So this is the example Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting about these people who did kufr. Okay? Those people who did kufr, or they rejected what Allah has sent down, their example is the example of someone who shouts to that which doesn't hear except they are crying and calling, okay, and screaming. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further is talking about these people, that what is their state. Okay, and here three words are used. Summum, bukumun, umyun. Okay. So these words are starts with swad, mim and mim, and ba, kaf and mim, and ain, mim and ya. Okay. So the meaning of these three letters is not to hear, not to speak, or not to hear. Okay. This one is not to speak. And this one is not to hear. not to see. This one is here, and speak and see. Okay. Swad mim is not be able to hear. Ba, kaf and mim, not to be able to speak. And ayn, mim and ya, not to be able to see. Okay? So, the noun from this is summum. Summum means deaf. A person who cannot hear is a deaf person. So this means deaf. And the noun from these three letters is bukmun. Bukmun means dumb. Dumb is the one who cannot speak. Okay. And the noun from this is umyun. Umyun. Umyun means blind. So one who cannot see is blind, the one who cannot speak is dumb, the one who cannot hear is deaf. So these are the three words. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that these people are like they are deaf, dumb and blind. Okay? So this is deaf, dumb and blind. Okay. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala one more time is saying, فَهُمْ لَا يَعْقِلُونَ. On top of having all these things in them, they do not understand anything. They don't have any aql. Okay? Fahum means so they. Fahum means so they. Okay? La yaqilun, the word has come here. They don't understand anything. Okay? So these are those people who have rejected what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent down, and they insisted that they will follow what was what they found their forefathers upon. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that even though their forefathers had no understanding of anything and they were not guided, these people still want to do that. And then the example of those people who did kufr or who rejected is the example of a person who shouts in front of a flock of cattle which cannot hear them except their crying and their calling. Summum bukmun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that they are deaf, dumb and blind. Fahum la yaqilun, they will not understand. And another place Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has used the word la yarji'un, they will not come back. That's about the munafiqeen. Okay? In the same words, for the hypocrites Allah says that they are deaf, dumb and blind. So in the beginning of the Surah AlBaqarah, fahum la yarji'un, they are not going to return. They are not going to come back to the guidance. Here Allah says they are not understanding anything. Okay? So inshallah we'll stop here.